It's great to hear you with some questions, I guess. We have media angels here to ask you a couple questions. So,
Sounds good.
yeah. Okay, let's start. Let's go, James.
Josh, congrats on the deal. What about this situation and felt like a fit, and how'd things kind of come together?
Yeah, we had a really good meeting. Obviously I have a history with Barfield when we were in AZ together. So he was actually one of the first guys to reach out to me as soon as I got let go, and we had a really good conversation. And I just feel like it's a really good fit for me. I'm still trying to show that I can be an everyday guy, and I know the record wasn't the best last year, but playing against the White Sox, they're a good team, and um, I've been a part of one of those seasons where it just feels like nothing goes your way, and doesn't matter how well you play, and you just can't put a win on the board. And sometimes you have years like that. I don't think it was um, very telling on the talent. I think there's a lot of talent on the roster, and a lot of guys coming up, a lot of good prospects coming up. I just think it was a season of bad luck, and felt like it's a good fit for me with a lot of young guys to kind of show them how to go about their business and be a professional and have success at the big league level.
You talked about wanting to show you can be an everyday guy, but at the same time, part of your career has also been being versatile. Does that is that something that you want to have a stable a spot that you can eventually lock down, or is having a bunch of gloves in your bag, is that something that's comfortable for you at this point?
Yeah, it's what got me to the big leagues, and it's if it's what's going to keep me in the big leagues, I'm more than happy to play new position every day. Um, it's honestly kind of exciting for me. Obviously, I had a lot of success at third base, being there every day last year. The more I get to do something, the more I'm going to get better at it. But now I look at it as, it's a position where I can go and be comfortable that I've had a lot of reps at. But I'm willing to play second, short, first, left, right. Um, they need a guy to, a couple games in center. I'm willing to do it. So something I love to do. It's something that got me here, and it's something, I'm not gonna ever, come out and say, hey, I don't I just want to play one position.
Pitch too, right, Josh? Did that a couple times last year.
I got a couple outings under my belt. It's not a situation that is usually good for the team when I have to end up on the mound, but if I need to get out there, I'll do it.
You talked about the losses the Sox piled up last year. What kind of selling process does Chris and the front office, or whoever you met with besides Chris, Josh, give you about this team moving forward, moving a year past, kind of the record-breaking numbers last year?
Really we discussed family stuff. How's my family going to fit in? What's the travel situations like? Living situations. They didn't really have to sell me too much on what the organization has as talent. I kind of did all that research myself before I met with teams and looking at rosters, and I got to, it was kind of a new opportunity for me to kind of play GM myself and see where the team is going and what direction they're heading. And it's a conversation I had with Barfield as well. Like, we talked back to our Arizona days when we had that season with a lot of losses, and you look a year later, 2 years later, they're in the World Series. So it's not a matter of you know talent, right? It's not a lack of talent when you lose that many games. Like in AZ, it wasn't a lack of talent. We had a lot of injuries. We had a lot of ball games where we're winning games, and teams just put together crazy innings and scratch out. It just feels like when you're in a situation like that, it just feels like you're finding every way there is to lose games. It's not a lack of talent. And I looked at the roster, and I played in Chicago. They have great offense. They had good pitching. Um, they have great prospects coming up in the pitching side, and I think it's only a matter of time before they put that together. And it's a growing experience when you have a season like that. You grow closer, you learn what you have to do better, you learn what not to do. And a lot of times teams come out on the other side successful.
As you mentioned, coming on in and wanting to help be an influence in some of these younger players. Who were some of those players that helped influence you on the way on up through as well?
I think the biggest one was Eduardo Escobar. He was, one of the first guys to kind of take me under his wing and show me, he was the first guy to like, hey, you're going to ride with me to the field. We're going to get there early. There's kind of those unwritten rules in baseball when it comes to, rookies, in the big leagues. Not necessarily stay out of the veterans' way, but when to get your work in and not interfere with guys that have been there a while, interfering with their routine, and how to still get your work done. I think it's tough when you feel like you're a young guy and you want to stay out of the way and you're scared to ask for things, and um, you're scared to say like, hey, I want pitching machine on the road, or you're kind of nervous to ask about those things. And when you have somebody you can talk to about those things that can kind of be that middleman and be the messenger to the staff and the front office on things that the team might need, it's really helpful. And he was one of those guys who did that for me. He was, hey, guys, you got to wear your hat during BP. It's like, all right, cool. Like, thank you. I appreciate that stuff because, I was a guy that, I wanted to follow all the rules, but sometimes you don't know all of them. Every team's different. Some teams take batting practice in cutoffs and no hat and wear shorts. And some teams have rules where, everybody wants to look the same. So it's tough. It's tough to, if you have to worry about all those things, it takes away from your ability to prepare for a game and be successful. And I think the one thing that I've tried to do, because I know guys did it for me, like especially guys like Adam Jones, he was there my rookie year. And he was like this guy I put on a pedestal who I was like scared to talk to. Um, and didn't really want to get in his way, and he immediately like was just like making me feel comfortable, and he let me kind of open up and be myself. And that's the one of the hardest things to do when you make to the big leagues is you're so worried about just sticking and when is my next at bat going to be, am I going to get sent down, and those are the things that are constantly in your head. And I think when that happens, it takes away from your ability to succeed. Everybody that gets to the big leagues has always been one of the best players on their team. And then you get to the big leagues and you're not that guy anymore. You're not the best guy on the team anymore. So when you're worried about those things and you're worried about trying to make an impression, it affects your play. And I think if I can help guys feel comfortable and help them be themselves and help them play the way that got them there, I think that's one of my goals.
Think that the success the team had in Arizona in 2023 and the athleticism of so many multiple players, a player like you who has outstanding baseball skills might have gotten lost in that system there?
I don't understand. Sorry.
Do you think that because there's so many great athletes in that Arizona system that you, as somebody that's a good athlete but also has a lot of baseball skills, do you think those skills might have been overlooked because their expectations were so high there?
No, not at all. I felt like I fit great in that system. And I honestly felt like I was a big part of that transition. As a guy with a high baseball IQ, but, not necessarily the speed of a Corbin Carroll or, the power of, a Christian Walker. I didn't have all those things, but I had the IQ to kind of help those guys get comfortable. I had a lot of conversation with McKay, and McKay was a guy that I was very close with. And I remember he came to me in spring training that year and was like, hey, I want you to like help these guys, take to the next level. Like Corbin Carroll is an elite base runner with elite speed, but if he's not comfortable stealing bases at the big league level and he's scared to get thrown out, he's not going to be as successful as he can be. And I'm not saying I helped Corbin Carroll steal bases, but just to have conversations with guys on like, hey, here's what I do to get a tip on a pitcher to get a bag. Now, if I can get 10 to 15 bags with average speed, then that shows guys with elite speed, like, okay, if I can do these things, I can, be successful. I think, you know, getting traded, I think that was just part of the business where we had Longoria at third. He was playing well. And there was another Arizona needed closers and they needed relievers. And I was dealt at the deadline to bring in a closer, and they felt they had the third baseman to make a run, and they did. So I don't think I was lost in that. I just think that it was a business move that they needed to make to bring in a closer.
I know defensive metrics can have a lot of wonkiness to them, but yours have obviously been very good the last 2 years and have jumped up. What do you feel like what you've worked on to where you're rating out so much better going to your left, or even kind of playing in and be able to cut off balls? What do you feel like has really you've done in the last couple of years to show that kind of improvement defensively?
Yeah, I think I made that jump in Seattle with our infield coach Bone. Just working on consistency. A lot of my errors came from inconsistency, and um, most of my errors that happened were always a result of lack of fundamentals, whether it was taking a play off and dropping the arm angle, or not setting my feet on a routine play. Just little like things like that add up, and it's such a mental game that you make one of those errors. If you don't know why you made those errors, it can spiral, and you can start working on things that you don't need to fix. And I think Bone gave me a blueprint on follow these things, um, you know, and you'll make the plays. And we had conversations, pretty much after every play I made. We would talk about it. Like, here's the things you did well. And even if it was a play made, like, hey, you made the play, but your footwork was kind of going to the left when you made the throw to the right. Like little things like that, where you can go and look and actually put your finger on what you did wrong on each play or what you did right on each play. And when you can do that every day and work on those things, the consistency shows up.
It's from playing third base as much as you did last year. Do you have a preferred position at this point, or where you spot you feel most comfortable?
I mean, obviously last year I felt most comfortable at third, but like I said when I had a meeting with the White Sox, like uh, I'm good wherever. Wherever I'm getting work at, I'm all right. Even when last year when I was playing third every day, I was still taking ground balls at second every day, every couple days. I was still taking ground balls at short. I shag fly balls every day just so you never know when you're going to end up out there, whether it's a spot start or a double switch, or I guess you don't double switch anymore, but switch and you got to move to the outfield. Um, Anything that might pop up, I'm more than comfortable with moving anywhere.
And offensively, you've long been a guy who doesn't chase very much, has a good idea of the zone. But in starting out so hot as you did last year, were there things about that start that you're kind of really looking to lock in on, preparing for this season?
Absolutely. Another thing I talked about with Thames when we talked hitting. Uh, One of my biggest regrets from last year was chasing the power numbers. I had a really good first half, and then I hit a couple homers, and I fell in love with that, and I was trying to launch. Um, Ended up hitting the most fly balls I've ever hit in my career last year. My exit velo was better than it's ever been, but I was hitting too many balls in the air. T-Mobile Park definitely wasn't a place to do that. And I just once that happened, and a month goes by and you look up and you've dropped 100 points, I kind of hit the panic button, and then you're trying to go back and you kind of get lost in mechanics and what should I change, looking at old video and comparing it. And it's just not the place you want to be during the season is chasing mechanics. So um, the big thing I took away from last year is, the beginning of the year, I was just trying to get base hits, um, drive the ball low on a line, and I hit a couple homers and was trying to launch. So my goal this year is to hit as many doubles as I can, shoot gaps, line to line, keep the ball out of the air, no easy outs. And I think if I can stay there, I can continue the first half that I've had. Last couple of years I've had pretty good first halves, and then um, try to chase that power number. So I looked back at my numbers from like 21 and 22 when, I was not really thinking about homers at all. And those years end up being my best slug years, my best OPS years. Um, End up with more homers than when I'm just flying out to the warning track.
You're going now to a ballpark that is pretty good for lefty slug, but do you kind of have to take the mindset of if I do my thing, it'll come because of the atmosphere?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the benefits of playing in a park where it flies and it's good for a lefty hitter is that it's not something that I have to force, and it's going to be something that I focus on throughout the year. That I'm not going to try to force homers. I'm going to try to hit line drives, and when I connect good, they leave the yard. And even last year, when I think back to some of the homers that I hit, some of them were, two strike homers where I'm just trying to, put the ball in play, or uh, early in the count, trying to drive something in the gap, and they leave the yard. So um, try to stay right there. I'll have some guys that are keeping me honest on what my goals are, what my approach is, and hopefully we can keep my first half success going throughout the whole year. Good. How are you?
Just fine. Welcome to Chicago.
I'm sorry, I missed the first half of the question.
It seems like you're coming in with the mentality of taking a leadership role in that locker room. Is that kind of where you see yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been the type of guy that's going to give a speech in front of the team, or um, that type of leader. Uh I'm more of the kind of loose, fun, enjoy the moment, but get your work in. I'm going to try to lead by example, show up every day, get my early work in, get my lifts in. Um, have great discussions when it comes to hitters meetings. Uh, Try to be a part of the discussions when it comes to, how we're going to defend certain teams, what to look for tips. Um, when it comes to things like that, I try to be pretty involved and lead by example that way. I'm not really big on, scolding guys for, you know, not doing what they're supposed to do or anything like that. I just try to lead by example, keep it loose in the clubhouse. Um, I try not to take myself too serious. I'm not going to be the guy that, is getting on guys for not being in the weight room or anything like that. Like, they're big leaguers at the end of the day. Like, they don't need a father figure or anything like that. But if anybody has questions or anything like that, I'm always more than willing to talk baseball. It's what I love to do.
How familiar are you with the city of Chicago and the Chicago White Sox fan base?
Am I familiar?
How familiar are you? You have
Uh
access to Chicago?
yeah, I'm pretty familiar. I've been there a few times. I've had my run-ins with some White Sox fans. Um it's I know it can be I I've seen my Instagram since I've signed. Um, I've been tagged in a few tweets, so I've been getting a pretty good taste of what it can be like in Chicago when their teams aren't winning. I'm a big NFL fan. I like the NFL. Um, I've seen what they've done to the Bears on social media, so I'm pretty familiar. Um, so we'll see. We'll see if depending on how the year's going, whether I'm opening Twitter or Instagram.
We know you're coming in to help the White Sox try to win, also have a great year for yourself. But is it unrealistic to think that during the year, while you're having a good season, that you're not going to be looking beyond this year and possibility of other teams wanting to acquire you at the deadline?
Oh man, yeah, that's way above my pay grade. I'm just trying to go out there and win games. I'm trying to, when it comes to, looking forward to ahead of this season, uh, I think a great season this year for me is really important to stay in the big leagues. Whether I end up, with the White Sox long term, or they trade me, or I play out the year and sign somewhere else in the offseason. I think that's too much to think about for me. I just know that, with my age and, the last couple years with not having the success I've wanted to offensively, I know this is an important year for me. And I know this is an important year for a lot of guys on this team. There's a lot of young guys trying to make a name for themselves. And, being a guy that came up at 19 as, kind of a low draft pick, a guy that doesn't have a signing bonus attached to him. I know how difficult it is to try to prove that you belong. And if I can help guys with that and help them get to a point where they feel comfortable and they feel like they belong, in the process of me trying to still prove that I belong, I think that would be a success.
Is there a synergy to winning that something that you guys probably maybe discovered in 2023 and to some extent last year that goes along with the the abilities that everybody has?
Yeah, I think it's finding an identity. I think that's the key to winning games, and I think that's the key to making a run is having an identity. And it's definitely what I learned in Arizona is, first couple years we're trying to go out there and survive. Um, and then we got new hitting coaches, and we kind of had a change of philosophy where we had an identity. And the identity was to go out there and use our athleticism, be pest on the bases, take the extra base, run hard every time the ball's in play. Um, you got to take everything you can. Take your walks, put the ball in play, take the extra base, score from first on a double, score on a base hit, tag on fly balls, play clean defense, and then obviously pitching. Don't walk guys, get ahead. When you can do all those things and find an identity, and I'm not saying that's the identity that though I think you find it in spring training. I think it's hard to, say this is going to be our identity before the year starts because every team is different every year. Even if you have one or two new guys, that could change your identity. So, I think the key is showing up in spring training, getting to know each other, um, become brothers with the guys in the clubhouse. You're about to spend 7 months with them. Um, Try to help the families get close. I think all of that is included in having a successful season. Um, you have to be family for 7 months out of the year. It's a long year. You're away from, your blood family. And I think to answer your question, the key is finding an identity. How are we going to win games? Where are we going to find success? How are we going to beat the Yankees? How are we going to beat the Dodgers? How are we going to beat teams like that? What do you do? Yeah, they might have a better lineup. They might have better pitching, but what can we do? Do they not hold runners well? Do they not throw from the outfield well? Do they not field ground balls well? Like, how are we going to beat every team? And I think that's the key to spring training.
Is there any other question for Josh? No, that's it. Oh, Josh, thank you. Thank you for joining us today, giving a little of your time.
Yeah.
And see you in spring training.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Can't wait to meet you guys in person. Thank you.